Northern Ireland, 14 years of festering violence, more than 2,300 dead. Ongoing terrorism plainly made possible by the New York connection.
The American-made Ingram Mach 10 is a relatively new weapon for the IRA. Theoretically, it can fire 1,100 rounds a minute. That's a 30-round clip in 1.2 seconds.
At least 70% of the weapons used on the Republican side of terrorism have originated in America.
What you see here is a fairly representative sample of the stuff which is in common everyday use in terrorist hands. By far, the greater part of what you see here is of American origin.
You would concede then that the United States is a major supplier of arms to the IRA?
It's something which the State Department would like Republicans to concede. It's not something which I would necessarily admit to.
It's like any other group here trying to buy guns. If they want guns, then they will get.
We've learned that unwitting Irish Americans are still very much the financiers of the Provisional Irish Republican Army, giving to what they think is charity, in fact, unknowingly buying guns. Gun running slowed but not stopped by recent New York court cases, including the conviction this year of Gabriel McGahey, the self-proclaimed #1 arms buyer for the IRA here, caught in an FBI sting operation trying to buy surface-to-air missiles, dealing in a Manhattan hotel room, telling why he wanted delivery out of New York.
New York is the hotspot. I would say there's more work done in New York police-wise than any other state in America.
Earlier undercover work for the FBI in New York, though, failed to convict Michael Flannery, Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade this year. He and 4 others acquitted of gun-running charges on the creative defense the arms deal was CIA approved to prevent the Russians from supplying the IRA. The publicity fueling contributions to NORAD, the committee founded by Flannery, supposedly for charity aid to Irish families, not guns.
There's a tremendous lot of people in the North in distress.
Are you sure that some of the money collected here has gone to the purpose you say?
Goes to that purpose because I say that we're not collecting enough.
Michael Flannery came here from Tipperary more than half a century ago, into this house in Jackson Heights in 1926. An almost all Irish neighborhood then, largely Latin now. Flannery standing as a symbol for the Irish, much like the cause he represents in Northern Ireland. This is Falls Road in West Belfast, in many ways a South Bronx look-alike. You could say Michael Flannery's heart lives here, in the crumbling and burned-out brick of this Catholic ghetto. Here, too, resides the soul of the IRA.
Asked to meet with some of the 200 to 300 said to be active IRA members, and you're led to Sinn Féin, the IRA's political wing.
Sinn Féin's job is to build popular support for the Republican case and to build popular opposition against the British connection.
Elected as a Sinn Féin member of the British Parliament, Jerry Adams is still alleged to be Northern Commander or Chief of Staff of the IRA. He masks that, but his intimate knowledge of current IRA activity is obvious.
The IRA yesterday were involved in shooting operations the day before, and I think 3 or 4 times last week, I'm not just sure.
He is the driving force in the left-wing politics of the IRA today.
Defecting from the British Army, Peter McMullen was a top IRA member for 7 years. Shootings, bombings, buying guns in New York. He's been hiding out in this country since '78, wanted by the British on an IRA death list. He lives under aliases in shadow. We met in San Francisco, where he told me he left the IRA because of its increasing communist indoctrination.
They were getting a little bit just too far to the left of politics, and they were getting involved with people who should never have been involved in Ireland, the Palestinians, the Baader Meinhof, the Red Brigade.
How many connections were there with those other organizations?
Unaccountable.
IRA links to the PLO and other international terrorist groups are undeniable, readily reflected in rhetoric, posters, and other available propaganda. But while the Marxist line is more open now in Belfast, it's deliberately deleted from material sent on to American supporters. So the far left lean of the IRA is largely ignored in New York by New Yorkers who contribute to the cause.
This is a national liberation movement.
Yes, well, it's a Republican movement engaged in a struggle for national liberation.
Are you comfortable with the label Marxism?
I have nothing against Marxism, but I think it's a misnomer.
Below Sinn Féin is the Office of Green Cross, which NORAD in New York says it gives money to help families of IRA prisoners. NORAD claims to collect about $250,000 a year in the United States, but some suspect 5 to 6 times that amount is donated, with some money going direct to the IRA.
40% of it is used for the relief of families in Ireland, and the rest is used to buy weapons.
I never collected money to run guns.
I've been with NORAD people and collected money from NORAD people, and used that money to buy weapons.
Michael Flannery?
Michael Flannery gave money to another person in a room that I was in, and gave the money, the other person then gave the money to me. Michael Flannery is the main supporter within the United States for the IRA.
Back in Belfast, we're originally told we couldn't talk with a family supposedly getting NORAD money because there's a risk of losing government welfare. But finally we're taken to talk with, but not identify, this woman, whose husband is serving 20 years in prison.
I think the Green Cross do their best.
Do you see him as a revolutionary?
Yeah, I would have to say yes.
According to Peter McMullen, this woman herself was a courier for the IRA, her jailed husband a top commander, who actually sent McMullen on his first gun-buying trip to New York, after his proven performance as a line terrorist.
I planted bombs in Palace Barracks.
You killed some people.
I'm sure that I have been responsible. Yes, I would accept the responsibility for that, for the death of certain people, of some people.
The Irish Republican Army are morally right to try and defend Irish soil against British terrorism and bring freedom to Ireland in the same way that freedom was brought to America 2 centuries ago.
The methods which the IRA use, of course, are one of force, are one of attacking against British soldiers and British military personnel. But I mean, that is the case in any war for freedom.
The sword is the only means of getting peace and freedom, liberty, justice and truth. Then I say it has to be the sword.
And the very fact that people are actually supplying money which buys arms which are used to kill innocent women, children and other people is, to my mind, an outrage.
The outrage is shared by many on both sides of the Atlantic. We'll examine what's being done to contain the violence when International Terrorism, the New York Connection, continues.